this and this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, listening to the Louis B. Free radio show, Brain Food from the Heartland. I am delighted to have Professor Steve Brusatte as my guest. Professor, good morning to you.
Louis, great to chat dinosaurs with you here.
Yeah. I have so much I want to talk with you about. And I know we've got limited time, but the book is the Dinosaur Atlas. It's a Nat Geo Kids book. And I have to say, of course, it's available everywhere and everywhere online. I always like to say, please try to buy it as close to home as possible. Patronize your local booksellers.
Yes.
Even the chains that are in your community are hiring local people, and they've got space rented or purchased, etc. But I've got to say that I was just telling you off air that I love this book, and I know it's a Nat Geo Kids book, but I have been pouring through it and absolutely love it. I had assured a friend of mine, as I told you, that I was going to give it to him for his kid. And I said, after the interview, I said, nah, in a couple of weeks, I'll give it to him. I'm enjoying it so much. Tell us about yourself.
So I'm joining you from Scotland, from Edinburgh in Scotland, the capital city. So I'm across the Atlantic and 5 hours ahead of you. And I'm a professor at the University of Edinburgh. I've been teaching here for about a decade. But I think I sound not too dissimilar to you. So I'm from not too far away. I'm from Northern Illinois, so not too far. I'm Midwestern.
Your path, again, in Scotland, teaching in Scotland, you made me think of Alexis Fleming, who has an animal sanctuary, and she would always tell me, some of the druket, if you get soaked, your druket, just different words. And then she sent me a book of Scottish insults. That's just fantastic.
Oh, that's a book with no end.
It's great. But forgive me, your path to becoming a paleontologist. Tell me about that, if you would, Professor.
So I grew up in Northern Illinois, in farm country, surrounded by corn and bean fields, small town. And I was not particularly enthralled with dinosaurs when I was little, but my youngest brother, Chris, was. He was the real dinosaur enthusiast of the family, and he turned his bedroom into a dinosaur museum. He watched Jurassic Park constantly. He had hundreds of books. He had all the National Geographic books. He had all the old issues of National Geographic that had dinosaurs on the cover. And really just through growing up with him, I learned a lot about dinosaurs. And over time, just gradually, he kind of wore me down. And then I got to a point when I was in my first year of high school. He did. It's funny to put it that way, but you're around somebody like him who is so enthused about dinosaurs, always talking about dinosaurs. I didn't realize it, but I knew a lot about dinosaurs. I was surrounded by them. I knew the names of so many dinosaurs and when they lived and so on, even though they weren't really my passion at that time, but they became my passion. And when I was in high school, freshman year of high school, by the end of that year, I realized I wanted to try to do this, make a career out of it. And one thing led to another. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of great mentors in the field that have introduced me to different types of dinosaurs, taken me out, taught me how to dig up dinosaurs, how to study dinosaurs. And now I've been here for about a decade in Edinburgh, teaching, running my own research lab, working with amazing colleagues all over the world, digging up dinosaurs. It is one of those jobs that so many kids dream of. It really is. Very special thing to be able to do. I know I'm very lucky to do it, and it's a whole lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun. I've never really lost that enthusiasm that my brother passed on to me, and I think that's because when it comes to dinosaurs, T.Rexes, Brontosauruses, I mean, come on, these things were awesome. These things were awesome creatures.
I've got to ask you, Professor, did your brother pursue paleontology? Or
no, like most kids,
right? Isn't that? I hope you don't mind that I asked. I just thought
he's too young. I think, like a lot of kids, he was one of those 5-year-olds that knew the names of all the dinosaurs. And in fact, he was 5 when Jurassic Park came out. I was 9. I remember we were in the cinema together with my other brother who had no interest in dinosaurs at all ever. But we were there with my dad, and, he was a 5-year-old watching Jurassic Park in the cinema. He was that obsessed with dinosaurs at that young of an age. But of course, as he grew older, he became interested in other things, and he went on to study history and work in the museum field. So not too far, removed. And he designed exhibits, for many years, working with museums, and now he's a writer, uh, and he works in communications and PR, which is yet another skill that it really, when it comes to things like paleontology, we are historians. We're also communicators. That's one thing we have. The science we do is so engaging to the public that we have opportunities to do things like work on books like this new Nat Geo Atlas, and I love it. I love those opportunities to take the science and spread that science, what we've learned, why it's important, and why we're so enthused about it, to spread that to a wide audience. And as you say, this is a kid's book. It's meant for kids, but
It's meant for kids.
It's also a coffee table book. It would look good at any coffee table. There's a lot that people from all ages can get from this book, because visually it's really stunning. And I can take no credit for that. There are artists that were employed by Nat Geo at the cutting edge of what we call paleo art, this discipline of art that reconstructs past life. Paintings and drawings of these dinosaurs. These are the most up-to-date, and you're going to see dinosaurs in this book how we really think they look. In all their glory. You're going to see what we think T.Rex and Triceratops and all those famous dinosaurs really looked like. You're going to see dinosaurs with feathers and wings. You're going to see a lot of new dinosaurs that you've probably never seen before in any other books, and certainly were not there in the books that were in the schools and libraries when I was a kid.
With all the discoveries and all of the things that you have done, that you were responsible for, maybe 15 new species of dinosaurs.
Yes, not personally responsible, of course. We don't go out and just dig up dinosaurs by ourselves. That would be
it's very generous of you. That's very generous.
But no, I'm always working with colleagues, and it's a very international, very collaborative field. So, I've been able to work with colleagues in different places, friends in different places, to discover, describe, and name somewhere around 15 new species of dinosaurs. And each one is cool. Each one, anytime we find something new, something different, something that we can tell is distinctive from any other dinosaur that's been found before, we can name it something new, and we can be creative. It's kind of like, you have a kid, what you going to name your kid? Yeah. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can pay homage, pay respect to certain people or places with it, and that's the kind of thing that we try to do when we name new dinosaurs.
When that process has got to be, I can't even begin to imagine what that's like for you, that discovery. I can't even call it an aha moment, because it's so much.
Because a lot of times we kind of build up to it. It's okay, well, we found a dinosaur. Either we found it out in the rocks, or we found it in the drawers of a museum somewhere, and it hasn't been looked at for decades. And we say, okay, it's a dinosaur. Oh, okay, it's a meat-eating dinosaur, it's a plant-eating dinosaur. And then we kind of start thinking, okay, what's it similar to? What's it different to? Okay, it has horns on its face, so it's maybe a Triceratops type of dinosaur. And your thought process goes that way. And then at some point you start to realize, this doesn't really seem the same as any other dinosaur that's known out there. Oh, there's something different. There's an extra horn. There's an extra backbone in the, connected to the pelvis, or whatever it is. That's new. That's unusual. That's different. Maybe it's a new species. And then you see if there's anything else new. And if you determine that it really is something that is distinctive from any other dinosaur that's ever been found, that's when you can name it. And when you realize that, that's a really cool moment.
That's got to be incredible. Again, you have the family tree. I can't say enough about this book. Yes, it's beautiful, and the artwork is incredible. The information also, and so, like you say, the family tree and things like that. Give us that overview, if you would.
This book is an overview of sorts. It's not an encyclopedia. It doesn't have an entry on every single dinosaur that's ever been found. It's not, as thick as a phone book. I was going to say, I guess there aren't really phone books anymore, but it's not that.
You remember phone books? You're too young to remember phone books.
I don't know why I thought of a phone book, but it's not that kind of thing that's super thick and dull and over-the-top academic. It is an overview. It's an atlas. It gives you the key information. It's kind of a 36,000-foot view of dinosaurs, the history of dinosaurs, where they came from, how they started, how they spread around the world, how some of them became huge, how others evolved feathers and wings, how they became dominant, how they became extinct, and where they lived, and where we find their fossils, and what those environments were like. and what the major groups of dinosaurs are. It's that general overview that you see in the book. And again, more than anything, it's just really visually appealing. My job here was to make sure the science was up to date, that it was accurate. But what really, really sets this book apart is what you would expect from any National Geographic book or magazine or TV show or whatever. It is that visual side. They are the best in the world of this. And for me, it's always a pleasure to work with National Geographic for that reason. And I think the visuals are going to blow
visually
people away.
stunning. It is very, very, very much so. When I first cracked it, when I first opened it, it's like, wow. And the art is incredible. It's a big book. It's a large book. It's great. And it's, again, targeted for kids, Nat Geo kids. I'm going to say it again and again and again, Professor. But it's, I think and by the way, if you have a child that you want to get this for and read it with them, you don't know, you may have a budding paleontologist, who knows, that will be inspired by it. I also love, by the way, the pronunciations, how you have the Dino Dictionary, because I think, I'm sure kids struggle with, but
everybody struggles with a lot of these dinosaurs. We struggle with them as paleontologists, we don't all pronounce them the same. I have colleagues, there's one dinosaur, with 5 different paleontologists in a room, they'll say it 5 different ways, because so many dinosaurs nowadays, they're not just called, something boring saurus anymore. They're given names that come from local languages. They're given names that pay respect to the places where they're found, that pay respect to important people, either in the science or in the history of the area. So, when any language in the world, any culture in the world now is a source for these names, that means it's hard for anybody to know how to pronounce everyone all the time. So pronunciation guides like this are a good guide, but you will run into paleontologists that don't even say the names of the dinosaurs exactly the way they are in the book. But those are the ways I would, say the names of the dinosaurs.
That's great. When you think about, again, some of the things, and people are emailing me about where did dinosaurs come from? I know that's very broad. Can you address your thoughts on that?
Yes, the origin story of dinosaurs. We love origin stories of superheroes and stuff like that. And really, that's what dinosaurs became. They became these superheroes of Earth history. T.Rexes the size of buses, and long-necked dinosaurs the size of airplanes and stuff like that. But they didn't start that way. They had a very humble, almost forgettable origin story. And dinosaurs go back to about 230 million years ago. They go back to the time of the supercontinent, the time of Pangea, when all of the world was smashed together as this one giant landmass that stretched from North Pole to South Pole. And the ancestors of dinosaurs were these small little reptiles, just about the size of house cats, that survived this cataclysm of volcanoes. The biggest mass extinction, the biggest period of global death that's ever happened. And this happened about 250-ish million years ago. And it happened because of these volcanoes. These volcanoes were in Russia. It's always Russia. We're talking about Russia today. Of course, this is nothing new. It's always Russia, even Earth history, prehistory. But these volcanoes, they were fissures in the earth that opened up, these Grand Canyon-sized cracks in the earth that just spewed out lava for hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of years. And with all that lava came carbon dioxide and methane and these potent greenhouse gases that changed the climate, changed the environment, led to a runaway global warming. Maybe 95% of species died out. The closest life has ever come to completely being extinguished. But there were some survivors, and some survivors were these small, plucky little reptiles, and they found themselves in this new world, this open world, a world of abundant opportunities. And those plucky little reptiles were what gave rise to the dinosaurs on that supercontinent. And from there, it took tens of millions of years for those first dinosaurs to get very big. They never got really bigger than a giraffe, as far as we can tell, for tens of millions of years. But they diversified, they spread around the world, they adapted, and then eventually they became really, really big. Not all of them, but quite a lot of them became really big, and they became the biggest things that have ever lived on the land in the entire history of the Earth.
And again, some of the size, when we're reading, it's unimaginable, really. I mean, again, yes, you see the movie Jurassic Park, I get that, but this is, again, that's based on dinosaurs, right? But this is factual.
Yeah,
And
I'll give the disclaimer there. I was the paleontology consultant for the Jurassic World Dominion film that came out this summer, so I did play a role in developing those dinosaurs
now I
and
want to see it. Now I
representing
want to see
science.
it. The new one.
Yes, you got to see it. It's a great, summer Hollywood blockbuster film. I know we're coming to the end of the summer, of course, but that's the type of movie it is. It's not a science documentary, of course, but my role was to make sure the director and the writers and the artists, they knew the science, they knew the real dinosaurs, they could incorporate that information in the film. That's kind of one view of dinosaurs. When it comes down to it, dinosaurs, a lot of them were just fantastic creatures. These were sublime animals. They were otherworldly. I mean, they may as well be aliens. I mean, you look at a T.Rex, you stand underneath the skeleton of a T.Rex. This animal is the size of a bus. Its head was the size of a bathtub. I could fit inside of its jaws. I mean, that's incredible. And then some of the long-necked dinosaurs, they were as big as Boeing 737 airplanes. These were animals. These were animals. They hatched from eggs, from tiny little eggs too. Eggs that probably weren't much bigger than like a coffee cup. And they grew into things the size of airplanes over their lives. I mean, they were just feats of evolution, feats of biology, and I think dinosaurs deserve all the hyperbole they get.
Wow. And again, I love, again, not to do spoilers, what happened to the dinosaurs. That section of the book it's all stunning. Again, visually stunning, but there's so much information, so many questions. How do I want to say it, Professor? Questions that I didn't know I had. Does that make any sense? Things when I'm
absolutely, yeah. And it's the same with us as scientists too. The more we find, the more we learn, and people are finding more dinosaurs now than ever before because there's young scientists all over the world out looking for dinosaurs. But the more we learn, the more questions we have. Of course, the new fossils answer some questions. They solve some mysteries. We have a pretty good idea now that, yes, the dinosaurs did go extinct suddenly when this big asteroid hit the Earth. But at the same time, new fossils raise new questions. And that's good. That's great. It means the science is changing. It means the science is evolving. It means that we are always chasing new mysteries of Earth history to understand. That makes this really fun.
And I know you've got a split, Professor Brusatte, but I've got to say, an author and former federal prosecutor, Meg Nossero, says, "Love a dinosaur guy." There you go. And I love your energy. I've got to say, I love your energy and enthusiasm.
Well, it's hard to be boring, I think, and dull when it comes to dinosaurs. I am very passionate about what I study. I get to study T-Rexes for my job. Come on. So
it doesn't get better than that, right? Again, Dinosaur Atlas available everywhere online. Nat Geographic Kids book. I know you got a split. Thank you so much for doing the gig with me.
Really, my pleasure. Yep, great talking to you, and hello to everybody back home in the Midwest.
And hopefully we can connect down the road a little bit. I love this. Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Fantastic, folks. You're going to